Hi, my name is Myra Tanksley, and this continues my series or snippets on a incident that happened on March the 24th, 2012 at OSU, Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, Harding Hospital, which is their psych uh, neuroscience hospital. Um, my son was hospitalized there. He has autism, and it this just shows how incompetent the staff was. The incident actually terrorized and traumatized my son. He was falsely accused of wanting to hit me. I was verbally assaulted by two nurses, physically assaulted by one. And after I had left the unit, because they ended me and my son's visit, which really set him off because he loves mom loves him. He didn't want our visits to be interrupted. And then they heard they actually, or he heard them say that he was trying to hit me. So they just really just set him off. They just really um, just terrorized him, and they had called security. So one of the security guards um, that had came up there, because I didn't really see how many, but one of them came up there, and as I was, after I had left the unit, because they ended our visit, um, he told me, he said, because I said they were all, I said by the time you got up there was a whole lot of, you know, there was a blonde, there was a brunette uh, yelling in my face, and one of them actually assaulted me. And he said, yeah, they were all freaking. So he seen this, um, environment that was not like a unit should be. It wasn't professional. The staff was not professional. It wasn't calm. It set my son off. They falsely accused him. They treated me as a family member like I was some type of criminal and stuff. But he said, yeah, they were all freaking. So that was on the other snippet, and you'll hear that again on this snippet. But he also told me that they need to know how to deal with it. Um, and he's talking about the nursing staff needs to know how to deal with your son being autistic or autistic patient. He said, because when they call security, it's on your son, you know. And, it was happening all the time, traumatizing my son, setting him off, and I'm doing this because OSU is one of the players that has slandered me continuously, have treated my son like crap while he's been hospitalized there, have treated me like crap. And it's not make believe, you know. Just the behavior from this particular hospitalization proves that. But, it's good to hear it from the real source. And just don't take my word for it. I can back it up. And, that's what that security guard was saying, that they need to know how to deal with it. And I agree with him. So, um, my son was just being terrorized and set off and terrorized and um, giving the howl dog Ativan cocktails, and you know they just constantly set him off, and that's the way they dealt with it, was just calling security all the time. And if I didn't mention it before, you can hear that incident of the assaults, uh, terrorizing my son and traumatizing my son. I had that on audio tape, and I did make an audio video of it. So you'll be able to hear that if you want to. Just go in my channel, and you can hear what I'm talking about. And I'm a registered nurse myself, and just screaming in a family member's face, and then grabbing them um, by the sleeve of their jacket is just unheard of. I don't think a nurse should even be practicing nursing that would do that. But nothing was done about it. But when you got the security guard said they were freaking, and he just didn't say uh, the freaking out part with it. He just said they were freaking. Then you know that I'm not lying about it. And then, like I said, go to the channel, look for that tape, or I can go ahead and just give you the URL where you could actually hear the incident that I'm talking about. It was just horrific. And I'm sure other patients heard it, and I'm sure other family members, because it was during visiting hours. I said, when you got staff like that, that's not the way you do nursing. It was just terrible. So anyway, here it is. You'll hear him say, yeah, they were freaking. And, I was telling him again, how I was being assaulted. And then that's when he said, well, they need to learn how to deal with it, because they call security on your son. And I'm sure you can tell that he wasn't really talking about every once in a while, but it's like, all the time they're probably calling, all the time, they probably were calling security on my son. And I do have another audio video that will be coming up where a medical staff member, I don't know if it was an aide, I don't know if it was a nurse, I don't know if it was a uniclerk, if they had uniclerk, threatened to call security on my son if he didn't hang up and stop talking to me on the phone. So, but I'm going to put it out there. It goes on the justice page because they were one of the players that slandered me and worked along with Franklin County Board or DD, and by writing a letter slandering me, try to act like my son's some type of monster or something. No, he has meltdowns because people don't know how to manage them. And in an environment like that, when you don't have staff that's not trained, has no knowledge base. I got an audio tape of a nurse telling me they don't know his triggers. I'm going like, well, you need to know an autistic individual's triggers. You can't care for them if you don't know their triggers. So, the lack of knowledge, the incompetence is about as bad as the slander and the corruption and the abuse. Because all they were doing was abusing my son, because they didn't know how to accommodate and keep him from going into meltdowns in that environment. So their answer, which is what the security guard was trying to say, was call security. Call security and tie him down, threatening that way. And that's what, and I might do that snippet, I think I will, where this staff member tells my son, I'm going to call security if you don't get off the phone. And I think he said, I'm not really sure, but I'll make the audio video of it. He actually said, oh, don't call security. And then the phone hung up. Threatening him with calling security. Now that's your nursing care of autistic patient, or of my son who has autism. But without further ado, here is this part again of me talking about being assaulted, and then of course the guard said, yeah, they were all freaking, talking about the staff, and so they weren't under control and they weren't professional, but he said they were all freaking. And then that's when he tells me they need to learn how to deal with it, because when they call security, it's on my son. So here you go.
I said, no, that's not nursing. You don't do that to a family member.
They were all freaking.
They were. Well, at least, the third one was behind, coming north towards me too, but the brunette and the blonde had already been in my face probably by the time you got up there.
I was still trying to learn how to deal with it. Because when they called security, they called us up there on your son.
And it's not a security matter, it's a nursing matter.
So there you have it. A security guard saying, they're calling security on your son. And they need to know how to deal with it, how to deal with autism, how do you manage an autistic patient, or a patient that is autistic, knowing about autism, that if the environment is going to be overwhelming or put them in overload, you can expect a meltdown. That's whether they're verbal or nonverbal. My son is verbal, but he's still autistic. And obviously, the way they dealt with it was just call it security. That's the first thing that I have to say about people that don't know about autism. Their answer to any kind of meltdowns or aggression is, and of course you want to keep them safe, but their first thing is to tie them down, throw them in a seclusion closet, or restrain them and that sort of thing, when you need to be trying to work with them and understand what autism is and identify triggers and prevent triggers, accommodate, modify. Not, oh, well, we'll just throw them and tie them down if they start having meltdowns and stuff. You're supposed to try to prevent that behavior. They just don't go off and start doing that stuff. So that's one of the number one things that I have about anybody that is caring for a autistic individual. But as far as in me and Marquise's personal experiences, it's done happen everywhere. Law enforcement, healthcare, in schools, in agencies. Because my son is right now in a state of Ohio operated ICF MR facility that has tied him down, and even now they still have him overwhelmed and sensory overloaded, because I got hundreds of audio tapes of him telling me, it's too noisy, he didn't like being tied down to a bed when he's restrained, but that's on my abuse and neglect page. But this goes on the justice page, because I am going to show all these different players, especially the ones that have lied on my son, try to portray him as a monster. No, he's an autistic individual. He ain't done nothing to nobody. He doesn't want to be that way, and he sure doesn't deserve the way he's been treated. And then a loving mother like me that dares to speak out about these evil, sick people that are in these jobs. And so I got to be slandered and unfit and all this kind of stuff. But it just shows that they don't know nothing about autism. I said, because my son has never vented about me. He vents to me. And I tell my mother too, if I was in a place that was setting me off morning, noon, or night, people tying me down, traumatizing me, terrorizing, I tell my mother too, I want to get out of there. I want to, So that's what this snippet is about. The next one will be with OSU. The medical staff threatened to call security on my son if he didn't get off the phone with me. So that's the next one. And thank you for listening, and I hope you have a blessed day.